Hi, this is Glenda, and today my husband and I are making a Taiwan swirl soap. Here we have the oils, which are at 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and next to it we have the light water solution, which I made the day before, so it is at room temperature or about 74 degrees Fahrenheit. He's going to add this light water solution, which is pretty much sodium hydroxide mixed with distilled water, to the oils, because this is the key to making soap. We're working in relatively low temperatures to help the batter stay fluid for a longer time. And initially he's just going to stir it with a spatula for a few seconds before introducing the stick blender. And when we do use the stick blender, it's going to be in very small amounts of time so that we don't speed up trays. We need a well-behaving fragrance for this, so we have chosen
Nature's Garden grapefruit lemongrass energize.
I only wanted to reach emulsion before it was time to add the fragrance and the colorants. So he is using the stick blender only for brief periods of time, and I'm going to leave this at real time in case you're curious to see how long it took.
What do you think?
It is emulsifying. I just told him that I thought it was emulsifying. I was standing next to him and that's what it looked like to me. Now that I see it from the top view, it looks like it wasn't completely emulsified. However, we still did some more hand stirring after adding the fragrance, and that I think brought it together in the end so that it worked out. Then we split the batter into 3 funnel pitchers. We put about 13 ounces of butter into the green color one and the teal color one, and about 26 ounces or twice as much into the orange color one. We had already added and dispersed the mica colorants with a little bit of light colored oil, which in our case was olive oil, at the bottom of the pitchers, and later we just hand stir them with a small spoon or icing spatula so that we didn't increase any of the trace speed using the stick blender again, so we just did it by hand. Then once we were ready, we started he started adding the colors and I was holding on to the dividers. Now the dividers that I'm using is the same one that I use for the Taiwan circling swirl soap, which has 5 divisions, but in this case we only needed 4. So we sort of stuck together just by hand. 2 of them aren't actually the one, let's see, 1, 2, 3, the 4th one. So we didn't put anything in there. And we did have some minor leakage at the bottom, but it wasn't a major concern. And this is when the final pictures come handy, because you want to direct the batter to go to a specific spot. Something that I will change in the future if I was to do this soap again is that I will put more contrasted colors in the center, because you will see at the end how the teal and the green sort of became muddled together. There's not a lot of contrast. They became of a very similar shade. Also, for future soaps, I think I'm going to try to make or 3D print a more sturdy soap divider. The fragrance does seem to have behaved very well for this technique, and it does smell a little bit more like grapefruit than lemongrass. Now that the bars are cured, that's mostly what I'm getting out of it, a strong grapefruit scent and a very faint lemongrass scent. And in case you're curious, I'm going to put a link to the blog post in the description box below in case you want to see the recipe. It's not a special recipe, it's just my regular recipe, and then I added more of the fluid oils of whatever I had in hand so that it came to be close to 40 or 45% of fluid oils. And if I can find a video that inspired him to do this design, I'm going to include it also there. In that video, he saw them making the swirls with a skewer. So even though I suggested using the stirrer that you see on the screen right now, he wanted to use the skewer because that's what he had seen and wanted that same effect. The swirl is basically a zigzag motion all the way from one end of the mold to the other one, and once he reached the end of the opposite end, then he came in the opposite direction so that he will create a swirl in between the lines, as you will see next. And there it is. I'm not going to make this go through gel phase because I've read that orange mica, when going through gel phase, tends to become more pale or fade a little bit, and I want the orange to remain strong, so I'm just gonna leave it out until it's ready to be cut. So it did take a while before we were able to remove this from the mold, and this was probably because it had not gone through gel phase. I did not add any sodium lactate, and I didn't freeze it either. I could have frozen it just to remove it from the mold and then let it thaw out before cutting it, but we just waited it out pretty much. And this is what I was telling you about the colors in the middle, the green and the teal. They have a very similar tone and shade, so there's not a lot of contrast, and that's probably something that I will change in the future. But overall, we were very happy with how it turned out, and I hope you liked this too. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. Thank you, and see you next week. Bye.